Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and this is a weird one. This is going to be what I'm titling the Third Shift podcast. Um, I'm in a position right now where I am going to start working a different shift next week. And so to prepare myself, I am sort of altering my sleep this weekend. Um, what that means for us, though, is that means that my poor wife is having to sort of, I guess, babysit me in a way because the whole weekend just sort of got flip-flopped. Normally I work a very early shift, and in order to go to work at 6:30 p.m., you sort of have to change a lot of your habits. You got to change when you eat, you got to change what you eat, when you consume caffeine, when you don't, all that stuff. And years ago, back before I joined the Marine Corps, I worked a third shift at a local hospital. I worked in their material services department, where I used to help fulfill disposable goods that the hospital needed for patient care. And I would make sure that those materials were distributed throughout the hospital at the right place. But it all got done on my shift between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. And working that 12-hour shift was very unusual because there's something that's difficult about working third shift in the fact that you are oftentimes trying to find answers to things where there's no one to ask because everyone that you normally would ask is at home asleep. And there's also a little bit of romantic freedom in the fact that, again, you're by yourself and you have to come up with answers. And so oftentimes you're maybe staring off into the nothingness of night and going, okay, it's just me and the wolves out here tonight. So how do we fix this? And I did that third shift for quite a while before I joined the military. And then when I was in the Marine Corps, I went to what they call combat training after boot camp. This was right about the time that Timothy McVeigh bombed the Oklahoma City Federal Building. And I got put on a third shift, what they call react force, guarding the motor pool of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where we would work from about 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. again. And I thought, man, this is so weird. I'm back to doing this third shift crap, and it was a lot of walking, a lot of looking at your shoes and thinking, should I have done something different with my life? It's a lot of that. And, here I am once again looking at possibly trying a third shift position, but it's this is something that I can learn. So what the job is I'm going to be doing doubles, pulling doubles. That's a tandem trailer. You've seen them on the interstate where the semi's in the front and it's got a trailer and then a dolly between them and another trailer. And you carry these trailers off to somewhere. We have drop yards all over the place. I'm going to be going with the driver. He's going to be showing me how to do it. I've had my endorsement for years, but this is the first time I'm going to be doing it for real. So it is a process. It is something I got to learn. It will be beneficial in the future because it is something that I can then teach others to do, which as a trainer at work, it's something that I can definitely do once I learn it. And it's also something that I can do from time to time just to keep me sort of off the day shift. I guess you'd call it the physical nature of unloading, which is what I've been doing for a very long time. And I know it seems like, God, why would you want to add more stuff to you? Well, I often ask myself that same question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is from time to time, it feels like it's time to learn something new, and this is that time. So let's talk about stuff I heard, because that's what this podcast is. I just got done watching a bunch of videos from Van Neistat. He's Casey Neistat's brother on YouTube. Van Neistat has a series called The Spirited Man, and in it, he talks about his life and his quest to always be a spirited man and always to wrestle with, I guess, an unconventional way of making a living, as well as trying to do the right thing and inspire people and somehow influence people, and questioning whether or not that feeds ego in some way, or if it's narcissism, or if it's influence, or what. And I sort of asked myself that question before too. It's like, okay, what am I searching for? What is the point of this? What am I doing all of this for? And I can only come to the conclusion that maybe it's just an archive, a way of saying that I was here. I know when I was younger, I used to work a second shift job after high school, and then I would come home and my friends would all get off work and they'd meet at my house and we'd play basketball until it was entirely too late. And my mom would have to open the window and go, "It's time for you guys to go home. Knock it off." And we would, okay, you're right. And we go home and we go to sleep and start it all over the next day. And we would do that day after day after day. And there was a moment, and I read this online, that says, what if you could remember the last time you went outside and played with your friends? And there was a moment in our youth where it was the last time that we played together as children. I mean, let's face it, we were children. And I don't know what changed other than the fact that we grew up. I remember laying on my driveway, looking up the stars and thinking to myself, I'm so bored. I just want something to happen. And I said that over and over to myself. I'm so bored. I wish something would happen. I'm so bored. I wish something would happen. And I wasn't very specific in my thought process, or my prayer, if you want to call it that. I just kept thinking, I'm just bored. And I wanted out of Florence, and I wanted to try something new, and I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to experience life, and I was ready to grow up. And, you know, it's not till you're grown up that you go, man, I was such an idiot. I should have enjoyed that moment a little bit more. I should have realized what I was going through at the time, and the age that I was, and the fact that I was in a position of not really having to worry about a lot of responsibilities, and maybe just had a little more fun. But I don't know, maybe I mean, you can't ever go back. So your only, viewpoint at that point is to go, well, that's just how life is. And this is where life takes you. And this is what we're doing. And so you accept it and you move forward. I recently, like I said, told somebody, hey, I wouldn't mind learning to do this. And the opportunity came up and they said, all right, so next week, this is what you're doing. So I guess that's what I'm doing. But Van Neistat sort of brought into focus a lot of things that I had forgotten. And there's a lot of his videos that are very boring. It's very, I don't want to just blindside it and say boring, but it's boring to most people. I find a lot of it very interesting because it has to deal with sort of the struggles that creators have within themselves of, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I going through the process the right way? Am I doing a service, or am I harming something? Am I causing more of a problem by what I'm doing? And he's very cognizant of the fact that, he and I are similar age. I just heard him say on a video that he's 46, so I'm a year older than he is. And it's interesting because, he has a young son, and it's talking about wanting to have another kid. And I'm at the point in my life where I have grandchildren and my kids are grown. But, having that perspective at this age in his life is very reflective. I had a conversation with somebody recently who was telling me that he's like, I'm becoming a dad at 40 years old for the first time. Do you have any advice? And I said, no, not really. I said, because every child is different. Every parent is different. I said, but I guess the only thing I can say is enjoy every bit of it, because even the stuff that drives you crazy is going to go by so quickly, and you're going to blink and you're going to be like, God, I can't ever get that time back. Um, and maybe having a kid at 40 years old lets you appreciate that a little bit differently. I'm guessing that Van Neistat's kid is maybe 5 or 6. So maybe he had him at, 41-ish years old. So maybe Van's kind of in a similar situation. And definitely being older, you're a little more patient. Hopefully by the age you're 40 something, that you're a little more financially secure than you are when you're 20, like I was, which allows you different freedoms. But it's not the same for everybody. Everybody's struggle is different, right? And he said a lot of things in this video that really, these videos that I watched, that really inspired me, and I wanted to talk about them. And it's one of those things where you have 1,000 thoughts per second as he's going through these conversations, and you're like, yeah, I want to add this conversation. I want to put my part in here. But it's not going to matter to you, the listener, because you don't know the conversation, and it's impossible for me to get my thoughts down quick enough to quantify what I want to say. He made a comment on there about, advice for younger people, buying, giving gifts that are expensive but not costly. Like, he's like, sometimes you go somewhere and there's the chocolate covered strawberries that may be, $20 for a box of them. It's expensive, but it's not exuberant to the fact that you can't afford something nice once in a while to enjoy as a treat. And he pointed out some socks that he had. He's like, these socks, I love these socks. A friend of mine makes these socks. They're $20. They're expensive. You wouldn't normally spend $20 for socks, but I love these. And it's like stuff like that. You go, yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Every once in a while, you want to treat yourself to something really nice, and sometimes you give that as a gift. Um, he made a comment in there about writing thank you cards, and that's something that I don't think I've ever done properly. I don't think I've ever thanked people properly. Um, I try to, the older I get, the more I try to memorize or to remember to mention it like right away, thank you for whatever, just the experience, the time, the money, the effort. I try to, and I know I fail, but I try. And now that I'm approaching 50, I mean, it's right around the corner. Um, I hope that in doing that, it will rub off with other people. I hope that this podcast, that this YouTube channel will somehow reach somebody somewhere where they'll go, oh, these are some good things I need to know. And it's all in efforts, like I said, just to sort of leave my mark here and to say that I existed at one point or another. I don't know if it'll matter to anybody in the future, but maybe it will. So it is what it is. Yeah. Um, I do want to thank you, everybody, for listening and for tuning in. And I do get the emails and the text messages and the stuff like that from everybody. And if you want to be on the podcast, just let me know. We can talk about anything, because that's how I roll. I watched the latest Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus, and a lot of people online have said that this episode just should have been called Mandalorian Season 3, because right off the bat, we see the Mandalorian, and Din Djarin is in the heat of a hunt. He is after a bounty. And right away, spoilers, if you haven't seen it, just skip this part. But right away, he pulls out the dark saber and unleashes all kinds of fury, chops people in half, cuts off heads. It's really brutal and incredible, and what you'd expect from a bounty hunter carrying a dark saber. So pretty cool. He has an interaction where he finds the armorer, and we've seen the armorer from season 1 and 2. The armorer basically tells him the lore of what the darksaber is. She gets the spear that he has, the Beskar spear that she has, and she melts it down to make armor for others, because she explains to him that the Mandalorians are need the Beskar for armor, not for killing. That the Beskar spear is actually sharp enough to penetrate Beskar armor, and so it should never be made into a weapon. Um, she melts it down, and he has a request, and he gets a suit of armor of some kind. We're not sure what, they haven't shown it yet, but he gets a suit of armor made for Grogu, the little baby Yoda character. And so that kind of opens us up to the next episode, where he's going to be in search of Grogu and find Grogu and possibly interact with Luke Skywalker and maybe a Ben Solo. I've seen a lot of fan stuff say that Ben Solo should be about 9 years old in this and would fit right in the timeline of Anakin teaching Padawans. So a lot of good things developing from this. Maybe a possible Ahsoka Tano appearance as well. Maybe a Darth Maul appearance. I'm not sure. Well, no, Darth Maul will be dead now. Never mind. Darth Maul was killed by Obi-Wan on Tatooine when Anakin was a kid. So no, that wouldn't be. No Darth Maul. Never mind. Just scrap that. But yeah. So maybe a Han Solo, maybe a Chewbacca. Who knows? We'll see. It was a really fun episode. A lot of action happening. There was a battle for the dark saber. This guy who comes from the House Tarvista challenged Din Djarin for the dark saber, and Din Djarin won the saber back. The armor basically tells him, you don't have any control of the saber, but you definitely have deserved the honor to hold it. And he has to go find someone to help teach him how to use it. So maybe in his interaction with finding Grogu, maybe Luke Skywalker will show him how to properly wield the dark saber. Maybe it's all leading up to him being a Jedi / bounty hunter Mandalorian kind of person. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting how it turns out, because this is still the book of Boba Fett. So it's got to fold back into Boba Fett somewhere in here. Maybe it's going to be him coming to save the day right in the middle of a Pike battle. I don't know. We'll see. He did get a new ship, which is cool. The remnants of the ship that Anakin was in the first prequel movie, the little yellow ship that Anakin jumped in and then tore through the other ships and blew them up from the inside. Very cool looking ship. Yeah. So lots of good stuff happening. Lots of action. Lots of adventure. Lots of fun Easter eggs throughout the thing. Even so far as the thruster shaft, or whatever they call it, that they put inside of this ship, looks identical to the same kind of shaft that they used in the first Star Wars movie back in '77, when they get put down the garbage chute, and Luke and Han are holding it up, trying to keep the walls from closing in on them inside that garbage chute thing. Looks very similar. A lot of Easter egg props in this. And every time I look at social media, there's always somebody else going, "Hey, did anybody else notice this other thing?" So really cool. All right, so switching to something else. I am still watching Peacemaker on HBO. It's really it's dumb. It's superheroes, sort of dark comedy superhero, done poorly, I guess that's what you call it. It's almost like someone took the idea and was like, I mean, we got a limited budget, but we can come up with some crap. John Cena's great in this. That's about the highlight of this whole show, is that John Cena is really funny in this. Even him being the deprived, weird character that he is. Depraved. Is that the word? Depraved, depraved, whatever. He's really messed up. But yeah, so Peacemaker. Encanto. I watched Encanto tonight on Disney Plus, and I was pleasantly surprised. I had heard a lot of people say they didn't care for the movie, and my wife had even said she didn't care for it the first time she saw it, but she's like, I want to watch it again with you. And I was like, okay. So we watched it, and after it was over, she goes, what do you think? And I was like, I liked it. I said, it's unusual, because in most Disney movies you have some sort of obstacle to overcome or bad guy, and this one really didn't have one. This was more about family and about the love of the family and expectations and how sometimes our life's expectations get in the way of our true meaning and our true calling. And somehow, sometimes the leaders of our family mess it all up whenever we put our own projections of what we think everyone should do versus what's really best for the family. And Encanto was done well. I was really impressed with the animation and how crisp and beautiful everything looked, including people's curly hair and the detail of their skin. It was just beautiful to look at. Um, I didn't fully get the music. I know that it was more, Spanish based. Um, the translations were on the screen. Luckily, I have the closed captions in English, so some of the songs they would break down and tell me what the English words were, which was helpful. I'm sure if I spoke Spanish more fluently, I'd be like, "Oh, this is great." But there was a lot of it I didn't quite understand with the songs, but everything was beautiful. It was about family. It was fun to watch. Um, I couldn't take my eyes off the main character. I just kept thinking, God, they did such a great job of the animation on this. This is so vibrant. There's parts of it where you're like, this looks real. Like this doesn't look like animated at all. It was like a real person. It was done really well. So I really liked the enchanted house and how it moved and interacted with people. That was cool. But it's a Disney movie. So at the end of it, you feel good. You're like, oh, that was good. And I guess me watching it with my wife and explaining to her what I caught about it and her watching it a second time, she was like, I liked it better the second time. And maybe it's just because she was watching it with me. Maybe having someone that you can bounce ideas off of that picked up on some things made it better. I don't know. I don't know. I just imagine that if you were watching it at home and maybe playing with your phone, you wouldn't quite get everything that's happening. And maybe that's what she was doing the first time she watched it. So I don't know. We'll see. So I am watching Two Bears One Cave, trying to catch up on those on YouTube. Uh, watched my dad get a new tractor on YouTube as well, and yeah, lots of good stuff happening. Football's going on. Tom Brady just retired after 22 seasons. Uh, kind of an interesting announcement. I didn't know that he had gotten drafted by the Expos. There's some people posted online. I know it's a big deal that he retired as like the best quarterback ever in history of football, but let's not forget he was also drafted by the Expos, which is another cool achievement. And I was like, hey, that's kind of neat. And someone actually has a baseball rookie card of him like in his Expos gear. It's like, no way. That is too weird. But yeah. So that's it. I'm gonna wrap this up. I know a lot of people keep asking me about Russia and what's going on in Russia, and I don't know what's going on in Russia other than what I read on the headlines. Um, that's one of those that's one of those things that we're all going to find out together type scenarios. All I know is that humans in history have always been at war since as far back as we can record history. People have always wanted to conquer other people for land and resources. Sometimes those resources are people. Sometimes those resources are water or oil or rare minerals. Um, sometimes those resources is just access to other resources. And I don't know if that's what's going on right now, but we're going to see a shift, I think, in the next 5 years of land and ownership. And it may be through war. And it seems like every time in history that war has gone on, it is also distracting from the fact that there's something else going on behind the scenes. There's something else that they're trying to cover up. There's something that they're trying to make better in their own country through the profits that are made from war or the advancements in technology or whatever. I mean, let's face it, if we hadn't had 9/11, we wouldn't have these supercomputer cell phones that we have now. or the advancements in medicine that we've had. I mean, the reality of all of it is it makes money, and nobody wants to talk about that. But human lives and the pursuit to extinguish other human life does eventually create interesting, fun things. That even sounds dirty to say, but it's a reality. I know right now a lot of people are going after Joe Rogan. A bunch of artists are saying that they're taking their music off of Spotify as a protest against Joe Rogan for the spread of misinformation about COVID. And it's artists that most people are like, yeah, I don't care. I mean, it's good to have morals and stand by what you believe in, but also those people don't listen to Joe. So I don't even know if they know what he's saying. I listen to Joe and I haven't heard him say anything crazy. Yeah. He's just a guy. He's just asking questions. He's asking questions, the same questions you and I are asking. Is this real? When's it going to get me? Do I need the vaccine? Do I not need the vaccine? How protected am I? Can I just take some vitamin D? Can I just exercise? Can I just get outside? What do I need to know? And he just happens to be asking these questions with scientists and also with some of his friends. And some of his friends are just other comedians. So the fact that anybody's taking it super seriously, that's kind of on you. So yeah, think for yourself. It's kind of the point, isn't it? It's what I was taught. Question everything. Think for yourself. Come up with your own conclusion. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap this up. I didn't know how weird this was going to be. I did start this kind of late for me. It's early for you. But anyway, please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. And as always, cue the cow. Moo, baby.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.